The wind howled like a starving beast, clawing at the metal walls of Outpost Theta 9. Snowflakes slammed against the observation windows, their frantic dance illuminated by the station's pale floodlights. Inside, Captain Elias Mercer studied the distress beacon's coordinates flashing on his wrist display. "This better not be another ghost signal, huh?" Jax Morales muttered, adjusting his thermal gloves. "Because I'm getting real tired of hiking through frozen hell for nothing." Dr. Sienna Park shot him a look as she double-checked the medkit strapped to her belt. And what if it's not nothing? What if someone's actually out there? Elias exhaled, his breath fogging up inside his helmet. "Only one way to find out. Move out." The steel hatch groaned open, and the storm welcomed them like an angry god. They pushed forward, trudging through knee-high drifts of ice and rock. Elias kept his eyes on his scanner. The beacon's signal was weak, barely cutting through the interference. But it was there. Somewhere in this frozen wasteland, something, or someone, was waiting. Then, through the blinding snow, he saw it. A shape, barely visible, crumpled, motionless, his gut clenched. "There!" Sienna rushed forward, dropping to her knees beside the figure. She scraped away the frost with gloved hands, revealing pale violet skin beneath the ice. Ridged patterns ran along the being's elongated skull. Zalari, a species known more for conquest than vulnerability. Jax let out a low whistle. "Well, that's new. What's a Zalari doing out here?" Sienna ignored him, pressing a scanner to the alien's throat. "Barely alive. Core temp is plummeting. If we don't move now, she won't last another 10 minutes. Elias didn't hesitate. "Get her on the sled. We're taking her in." Jax hesitated, shifting his weight. "You sure about that, Cap?" "Their people don't exactly send us Christmas cards." Elias turned to face him, voice sharp. "We don't leave people to die, Morales." "Move." Jax sighed, but helped lift the alien onto the hover sled. As they turned back toward the outpost, the wind howled louder, as if trying to claw her back. The medical bay hummed with quiet urgency. Heat lamps bathed the cot in a warm glow, chasing away the frost still clinging to the Zalari's skin. Electrodes monitored her vitals, their steady beeps filling the silence. Sienna stood beside the bed, arms crossed. "She's stable for now, but I've never treated a Zalari before. Their physiology is complicated." Elias exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Then we figure it out." A sharp inhale, a rustling of fabric. Then, golden eyes fluttered open. The alien's breath hitched as she scanned the room. Her fingers twitched beneath the blankets. Her body tensed, as if expecting an attack. Sienna raised her hands in a calming gesture. "It's okay. You're safe." The Zalari blinked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Safe?" Jax, leaning against the counter, snorted. "Relatively speaking." Elias stepped forward, his voice steady. "I'm Captain Elias Mercer. This is Dr. Sienna Park and Jax Morales. We found you out there in the storm. Who are you?" A pause. Then, "Vela." Sienna offered a small nod. "All right, Vela. Can you tell us what happened?" Vela hesitated, her throat working through the dryness. Then finally, she spoke. "They hunted me." Jax frowned. "Who?" Vela's gaze darkened. "My own people." The room went silent. Even Jax, ever the skeptic, looked thrown. Elias narrowed his eyes. "Why?" Vela swallowed hard, her voice tight. "Because I know something they do not want shared." Jax exhaled, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Of course. A conspiracy. Just once I'd like an easy day." Before anyone could respond, the station's proximity alarms blared. Red lights flashed. A warning message scrolled across the main console. "Unidentified vessels detected. Incoming approach." Vela's breathing quickened. She turned to Elias, urgency in her golden eyes. "You do not understand what you have done." Outside, in the endless storm, the hunt had already begun. The outpost klaxons wailed, their shrill cries slicing through the frigid air. Red emergency lights bathed the corridors in an eerie glow, casting elongated shadows that danced with each flicker. In the control room, Elias's fingers flew over the console, bringing up external feeds. The storm obscured most visuals, but faint silhouettes of approaching vessels pierced the snow-laden darkness. Unidentified ships closing in fast, Elias reported, his voice a controlled calm, masking the urgency simmering beneath. Jax leaned over another terminal, his brow furrowed. They're broadcasting on Zalari frequencies. Looks like Vela wasn't exaggerating. Sienna's gaze darted between the monitors and Vela, who stood at the room's edge, her posture tense, eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. Elias turned to her. Vela, if there's something we need to know, now's the time. She swallowed hard, her voice trembling yet resolute. The High Council dispatched elite hunters to retrieve me. They won't negotiate. Their orders are to eliminate any witnesses. Jax let out a low whistle. Charming folks. Elias's jaw tightened. Why are they so desperate to get you back? Vela hesitated, then squared her shoulders. I discovered a plan, a covert operation to deploy a bioweapon against non-Zalari species. It's a prelude to galactic domination. I couldn't stand by and let it happen. Sienna's eyes widened. That's monstrous. Elias nodded, processing the gravity of the revelation. Then we can't let them take you. Or that information. The outpost shuddered as the first barrage struck, a thunderous impact that rattled the walls and sent a cascade of frost from the ceiling. Shields holding, Jax reported, fingers dancing over the controls. But they won't last forever. Elias's mind raced. Their outpost, though sturdy, wasn't designed for prolonged assaults. They needed a plan, a way to turn the tide. Jax, what's our weapon status? Jax grimaced. We've got point defense turrets, but against their firepower, it's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Elias glanced at Vela. Do they know you're alive? She shook her head. Unlikely. They'd assume the storm claimed me. A spark ignited in Elias's mind. Then we have the element of surprise. He turned to his team. Listen up. They don't know Vela's here, and they don't know we're aware of their plans. We can use that. Jax, get those turrets online and target their landing zones. Sienna, prep the medbay for potential casualties and gather any intel equipment we have. Vela, any insight into their tactics would be invaluable. Jax nodded, a determined grin spreading across his face. Time to show these hunters what happens when they corner humans. Sienna placed a reassuring hand on Vela's arm. We'll get through this. Together. Vela offered a tentative smile, hope flickering in her eyes. Thank you. All of you. The outpost trembled under another volley, but this time the occupants stood resolute, ready to face the storm. The outpost's reinforced walls groaned under the relentless assault, each impact sending tremors through the structure. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, but a determined resolve bound the team together. Captain Elias Mercer stood at the central console, his gaze fixed on the holographic display projecting the outpost's surroundings. Red markers indicated enemy positions, steadily encroaching despite the blizzard's fury. Jax, status on the turrets? Elias's voice was calm, betraying none of the urgency of their situation. Jax Morales, hunched over a secondary terminal, wiped a bead of sweat from his brow. Turrets are online, but visibility's shot. We're firing blind out there. Elias nodded, switched to thermal imaging. The storm's our cover, but it works both ways. Dr. Sienna Park entered the control room, her medical kit slung over one shoulder. Medbay's prepped for casualties. Let's hope we don't need it. Vela, the Zalari defector, stood near the viewport, her eyes reflecting the swirling snow outside. They'll send infiltrators next, she said softly. The hunters prefer close combat in conditions like these. Elias turned to her, his expression unreadable. What else can we expect? Vela met his gaze, her resolve hardening. They'll target command centers, power supplies, anything to cripple us from within, and they'll be cloaked. Jax let out a low whistle. Invisible assassins. Just what we needed. Elias's mind raced. We need to anticipate their moves. Jax, can you rig the internal sensors to detect cloaked intruders? Jax scratched his head. Maybe. If I recalibrate the motion sensors to pick up anomalies in the air displacement. Do it, Elias ordered. Sienna, coordinate with Jax. Set up portable scanners in critical areas. Sienna nodded. On it. Vela stepped forward. I can help. I know their tactics, their patterns. Let me assist Jax. Elias studied her for a moment before nodding. All right, Jax. She's your second pair of eyes. As the team dispersed to fortify their defenses, the outpost shuddered again, a reminder of the relentless threat outside. Hours passed, each minute stretching into an eternity. The storm howled, and the walls seemed to close in with each tremor. But inside, the team moved with purpose, their synergy a testament to their training and trust in one another. In the dimly lit corridors, Jax and Vela worked side by side, recalibrating sensors and setting up detection grids. Never thought I'd be fighting invisible aliens on an ice planet, Jax muttered, his tone light despite the tension. Vela managed a small smile. Life has a way of surprising us. Jax glanced at her. Why'd you do it? Defect, I mean. Must have known they'd come after you. Vela's expression grew somber. I couldn't stand by and watch innocent lives be destroyed. My people, they've lost their way. Jax nodded, respect evident in his eyes. Takes guts to stand up for what's right. Before Vela could respond, an alarm blared, a shrill, urgent sound that sent adrenaline surging through their veins. Motion sensors tripped in Sector 7, Elias's voice crackled over the comms. All units, prepare for engagement. Jax and Vela exchanged a glance, then sprinted toward the designated sector, their footsteps echoing in the narrow corridor. They arrived to find Sienna already there, her portable scanner emitting a soft hum. I'm picking up anomalies, she whispered. They're here. Elias's voice came through the comms again. Remember, they're cloaked. Use thermal and motion detection. Stay sharp. The trio moved in formation, eyes scanning every shadow, every flicker of movement. The air was thick with tension, each breath loud in the silence. Suddenly, a shimmer to their left, a distortion in the air. Vela reacted first, her blaster firing a precise shot. A guttural cry echoed as the cloaked hunter flickered into visibility before collapsing. One down, Jax muttered. How many more, Vela? At least 2, she replied, her eyes narrowing. They won't retreat. They pressed forward, every sense on high alert. Another distortion. A hunter lunged, its blade gleaming. Sienna sidestepped, her medical training translating into swift, precise movements. She delivered a sharp blow to the hunter's neck, and it crumpled to the ground. Impressive, Jax remarked, a grin tugging at his lips. Sienna shrugged, her expression serious. Years of dealing with unruly patients. The final hunter proved more elusive, using the outpost's layout to its advantage. The team moved cautiously, aware that any misstep could be fatal. In the control room, Elias monitored their progress, his fingers hovering over the controls. He spotted a faint heat signature near the power core, a critical target. Jax, the last one's heading for the power core, Elias warned. Cut it off. On it, Jax responded, signaling for Vela and Sienna to follow. They navigated the labyrinthine corridors. The storm's fury had not abated, its howling winds and blinding snow forming a natural barricade around the outpost. Inside, the team prepared for their most perilous mission yet, to strike at the heart of the Zalari command ship and end the threat once and for all. Captain Elias Mercer gathered his team in the briefing room, the holographic display casting a blue hue over their determined faces. The schematic of the Zalari vessel rotated slowly, highlighting critical points of interest. Our objective is here, Elias indicated a central chamber within the ship. This is their command center. Taking it out will cripple their operations. Jax Morales leaned in, scrutinizing the layout. Their defenses are tight. We'll need to disable their sensors to get close. Vela, the Zalari defector, nodded. I can guide us through the maintenance ducts. They're less monitored but narrow. Dr. Sienna Park checked her medical kit, ensuring it was fully stocked. Once we're in, what's our extraction plan? Elias met her gaze. We commandeer their shuttle bay. It's risky, but it's our best shot. The team exchanged resolute nods, fully aware of the dangers ahead. Donning insulated suits to combat the planet's freezing temperatures, they ventured into the storm. The howling wind and biting cold were relentless adversaries, but their determination burned hotter. Vela led the way, her intimate knowledge of Zalari protocols proving invaluable. As they approached the looming silhouette of the Zalari command ship, they marveled at its sleek, predatory design, now partially obscured by ice and snow. The ship's landing struts were anchored deep into the frozen ground, stabilizing it against the tempest. Vela located an external maintenance hatch, its access panel glowing faintly. With deft fingers, she bypassed the security protocols, and the hatch hissed open, revealing a narrow passageway. Stay close and keep your voices down, she whispered, her breath visible in the frigid air. The maintenance ducts were a labyrinth of tight corridors and junctions, illuminated only by the occasional flicker of emergency lights. The metallic walls amplified every sound, making stealth paramount. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a grated vent overlooking the command center. Below, Zalari officers moved with practiced efficiency, oblivious to the intruders above. Elias assessed the situation. Jax, can you disable their sensors from here? Jax examined the control panels within the room. If I can access that terminal, yes. Elias nodded. Vela, Sienna, provide cover. On my mark. With synchronized precision, they descended into the command center. Jax sprinted to the terminal, his fingers flying over the alien interface. Vela and Sienna took defensive positions, their weapons trained on the unsuspecting Zalari. An alarm blared, and chaos erupted. Zalari soldiers reacted swiftly, but the team's surprise advantage gave them precious seconds. Jax's efforts paid off as the lights flickered and the ship's internal defenses went offline. Sensors are down, Jax shouted over the commotion. Elias took command. Plant the charges. We need to move. As they secured explosives to critical systems, a door slid open, revealing a towering Zalari clad in ornate armor, their commander. His eyes burned with fury as he drew a serrated blade, advancing with lethal intent. Vela stepped forward, her stance defiant. This ends now. The duel was swift and brutal. Vela's agility matched against the commander's brute strength. Sparks flew as blades clashed, each strike a testament to their resolve. With a final, decisive move, Vela disarmed the commander and delivered a blow that sent him crashing to the ground. Charges set, Sienna confirmed, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Elias signaled the retreat. To the shuttle bay. Navigating the ship's corridors, they encountered sporadic resistance, but their momentum was unstoppable. Bursting into the shuttle bay, they commandeered a Zalari craft, its sleek design unfamiliar yet functional. As they ascended, the charges detonated, and the command ship erupted in a fiery blossom, debris scattering across the icy landscape. The shockwave rattled their shuttle, but Jax's steady piloting kept them on course. Breaking through the storm's upper reaches, they soared into the clear expanse of space, leaving the tumultuous planet behind. The team's faces reflected a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. Elias glanced at Vela, gratitude evident in his eyes. We couldn't have done it without you. She offered a weary smile. It was a team effort. Sienna leaned back in her seat, exhaling deeply. So what's next? Elias gazed at the stars ahead, a sense of purpose rekindled. We rebuild, stronger than before. The shuttle's